So in all of those statements, there's a symmetric credential that can move. So that's kind of interesting. We think of now let's think about computer science. Like let's take ourselves back to like teenage years. What does that mean? A credential that can move? Well, it means it's in memory. It means I copy it from my memory to someone else's memory. And now let's think about a traditional connection between your browser and some service, maybe ChatGPT. Does TLS guarantee the protection of that credential that you're moving back and forth? We all kind of assume yes, but it actually doesn't. There is no end-to-end TLS anymore. And there maybe never was. If you're in a big enterprise, Palo or F5 or Zscaler is terminating that TLS before it even leaves your enterprise. Then it goes to Akamai or Cloudflare or Amazon CloudFront, right? For content distribution. Then it probably goes through an application load balancer layer and how the service is distributing itself across regions and zones. And then if your engineers are doing what's new and exciting, they've deployed a Kubernetes cluster, which means you go through a service mesh, which again, re-terminates your TLS connection, right? So you're probably not managing any of these. They're probably all third-party managed. So now the footprint of where your credential lives is like 3 or 4 third parties that you have no ability to track that represents credential theft. They can basically represent insider threat as well as exploitation. So again, this is just one example of like why are credentials so easy to steal. But our insight was, well, what if a credential didn't have to move? What if we could move from symmetric credentials to asymmetric credentials, right? And asymmetric cryptography for signatures is clearly an old technology. It's been around. People know how to do that. But what if we could take it one step further? What if we could guarantee the signing key cannot move? And the observation one of our engineers made early on was like, hey, HSMs can do that. And HSMs exist in servers, but they're expensive. But wait a minute. I think because of mobile payments, things have changed. And it turns out, yes, because of how the mobile payments industry drove a change in the chip manufacturing industry, you almost cannot buy modern electronics today that does not have a version of an HSM in it. Your phone has an HSM. Your laptop has an HSM. That drone that you bought that you're flying around your yard, it has an HSM, right? So if these HSMs exist everywhere, then what if we move primary authentication to be asymmetric where the private key can't move? If it can't move, that surface area that I described a minute ago shrinks to a single point. And credential theft doesn't work. Stuffing doesn't work. Guessing doesn't work. If I'm on the device you're working from, it's actually rather trivial to then start detecting things like man in the middle, man in the browser, attacker in the middle, that sort of thing. And then that third comment, remember endpoint patching, endpoint hardening, that sort of thing? Well, when you get on an airplane, it's not enough for you to be the right person on the ticket. You also need to make sure you have no guns, no knives, no bombs. You have to be safe enough for the environment you're asking for. Again, if we're managing the credential on the device you're actually working from, then it's rather trivial for us as part of authentication to also comment on the safety of this device relative to the service it's asking for. We can basically check the posture and say, hey, this device is hardened. This device does have the security controls you would expect relative to what it's asking for. That could be attested and kind of sealed